Okay. Hi, guys. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm just going to explain two things for you guys. The first thing is that y'all voted yesterday on the little sheets, and now we put the results on that on 4 different, Google Docs or Google test things. So you just scan the QR code for your grade, and then you vote for the top 4 people in your grade, and then it'll be narrowed down tomorrow to 1 person from each grade for each category. So those will be posted up, and you can do that all day. And then the second thing is Girls' Heart Day today and Boys' Heart Day tomorrow. So Girls' Heart Day is that during breaks and lunch and passing periods, if a girl talks to you, they have to give you their heart. That's for boys, okay? And then it's vice versa tomorrow. And you have to make it, competitive, too, and, fun. So it's, not just here's your heart. No, be, more fun with it. And that's all. Thanks, Emily.
Please stand with us and sing.
Hey, before we start worshiping here, by the way, y'all look great. All the red and pink out there. Honestly, moment of truth, I forgot it was Valentine's Day.
Oh, Mr. G.
So when I come home, I got some serious explaining to do. I don't got a reservation. I don't got flowers. You would think I would know with all the reminders everywhere. So I'm going to be apologizing for a while. But anyways, right now we are standing in the presence of God, and I just want us to put our focus on that. We are standing in his presence. I read something interesting this week. We all know the Lord's Prayer. We say it a lot. So I always thought when I would, as you're praying the Lord's Prayer, our Father who is in heaven. See, I always assumed, and I think some of us always assume that when we say in heaven, it's somewhere out there, somewhere far away. I read it in Hebrew earlier this week, and the word heaven in that context is actually the word that isn't the God of heaven out there. You see, that word is, when they say heaven, it's the heavens all around us. In our presence, right? The day-to-day, the things that we don't see, right? He's here. He's in the heavens. He's in this room. His presence is all around you, beside you, behind you, in front of you, within you, through you. He is everywhere at the same time. So when we say our Father who is in heaven, it's not some distant, far-off God that we don't know where he is. He's right here. Can we give God some worship and some glory this morning? He is worthy, and he is right here. Come on, give God some praise. Let's go. Worship time.
My faith will stand, and I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine. Grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you've never failed, and you won't start now. And I will call upon your name, trial and the change, one thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. And on and on and on and on it goes, 'cause it overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid. One thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. In death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. My debt is paid, there's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. And on and on and on and on it goes. It overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid. One thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love. Oh, how high would I climb mountains if the mountains were where you hide? Oh, how far I'd scale the valleys if you graced the other side. Oh, how long have I chased rivers from lowly seas to where they rise, against the rush of grace descending from the source of its supply. 'Cause in the highlands and the heartache, you're neither trace my steps through all my failures and walk me out the other side. For you could descend the mountain, that valleyed hill called Calvary, but for the one I call Good Shepherd, who like a lamb was slain for me. So I will praise you on the mountain, and I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. So I'll praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows. No less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same. Wherever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains. Wherever I stand, and if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. Whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains. Wherever I stand, and if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. From the greatest of all valleys come the pastures we call grace, a mighty river flowing upwards from a deep but empty grave. I will praise you on the mountain, and I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. So I'll praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows. No less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands, in the heartache all the same.
We have a privilege today of having Hannah come from an organization that you're going to be hearing a lot about. Her work is to build relationships and steward connections across the country to raise awareness and support for the mission of ASJ. She started working in 2021, and before that, she worked in a nonprofit sector on economic development, anti-racism strategy, and addressing the root causes of poverty. So I'm very grateful that she is here to open your eyes again to the world around and how much God loves us everywhere.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? I have a little bit of a sore back, so I might sit, I might stand, but anyways, my name is Hannah Applebach, and I work for this organization, ASJ. It stands for the Association for a More Just Society, and it's an amazing Christian organization located in Honduras that we're going to talk about today. It looks like my slides are going to be done for me. Wow, that's so nice. Okay, so our mission statement is here: to be brave Christians dedicated to doing justice in Honduras and inspiring others to seek justice in their own context. That's y'all, inspiring others to seek justice in their own context. So today we're going to learn about this organization and learn about some stories and some values that it has that have inspired my faith, and I think they're really going to inspire your faith. I've worked for this organization for about 2 years now, and it's been an incredible experience. How many of you know someone, or by a show of hands, can say you've visited or know someone who's lived in Honduras? Like, lived there, been there, know someone who has. Okay, great. On the next slide, we're going to look at a map of Honduras. This is where the beautiful little country of Honduras is located, right in the middle of Central America. There's the flag. Now you'll be able to recognize it. Has about 11 million people that live there, and I think that's a good visual to start with. The capital city is called Tegucigalpa, and I'm going to refer to that a lot because our organization is located there. We are a Honduran organization, and on the next side, you will see some of our staff. Aw, we're so cute. There's about half of that group lives in the U.S., including myself. I'm from Michigan. And the other half lives in Honduras. And on the next slide, you will see the rest of our team of 70-ish folks who live and work for this organization in Honduras. So our work is mainly focused on creating better education, health, and safety systems, such as police systems, in Honduras. ASJ has worked for over 20 years to make the public systems work properly in Honduras. Systems like health, education, and security. So for example, there's 3 million kids, school-aged kids, total in Honduras. It's ASJ's mission that those schools are the best possible schools that they can be for those kids. And there's many organizations like that in Honduras that have built private schools, for example, and that's amazing, and we love those schools. Those schools will serve about 200 kids each. If the government can work with us to make the public system the best possible system that it can be, we can reach millions of kids. So that's ASJ's focus. And today you're going to hear me use the word justice a lot to describe what ASJ does and what we care about. So I like to use this fish analogy, yep, there it is, so cute, to describe how ASJ works and what justice work looks like, because it can be a little confusing. So you may have heard, like, teach a man, or feed a man a fish. Feed a man a fish could be an analogy for organizations that are charity organizations, food pantries, soup kitchens, disaster relief, the Red Cross, super important. The next area is called teach a man to fish, or maybe that's like development work. So that's sort of like microloans, which you may have heard of. Or often during the holidays, you and your family can buy a sheep or a small chicken for a family in an impoverished community in Africa or other places in the world. That's amazing work. It's community development work. The third space is systems reform work. That's when we ask the question, how can we create like access to the pond and remove the barriers for all the things necessary to fish? And that systems level work includes working with the government to improve these big picture things, advocating for an increase in national budget money so that the curriculums could be improved or the right medicines can be sourced. All of these things are necessary, and all of these are ways we create change in other countries, in our own community, in the United States. ASJ was developed when a group of people looked around and saw tons of charity organizations, tons of community development organizations, but nobody focusing on the system. It's a really big question and a really big problem, but we're really curious, why does poverty exist? Like, where did it come from in the first place? What are the root causes? And so that's the work that ASJ does. And I'll share a story now. We can go to the next slide. That will sort of help explain what ASJ does and how it works. And after that, I'm going to talk about 3 values that guide ASJ's work that are core Christian values that have really inspired my faith, and I hope they inspire yours. So this is a picture of the police. That's the police academy in Honduras, and this is quite a crazy story. The Honduran National Police have been known as one of the least trustworthy government institutions in all of Central America. They have been known for being full of corruption and a lack of sufficient resources. From 2005 to 2011, Honduras's homicide rate skyrocketed, being the highest in the world in 2011. Police were involved with organized crime and drug trafficking, often protecting the interest of criminals and collaborating with them in times, rather than being allies to the victims. Beyond that problem of crime and corruption, the Honduras police really suffer from a lack of resources, training. They don't have enough people, equipment, technology. And compared to global averages, Honduras had half the numbers of police officers per citizen as any other country should have. So in 2016, some ASJ staff were asked to be on a commission to purge corruption in the national police force by investigating and firing hundreds of police force at all levels of the leadership. And ASJ was thrilled to have this much influence. I mean, this project was enormous. We were in the New York Times. Our staff was in the Washington Post. It was crazy. But it was also terrifying. Lots of our staff had to work undercover. Our staff received some death threats. Some of them had to send their family to the U.S. to seek asylum. That work of fighting injustice was so scary. However, the work done by ASJ and others in Honduras with the police was very successful and has been recognized around the world for its success, and our staff have spoken to countries around the world about how they did it. Ultimately, those reforms are helping transform the police system in Honduras to be an institution of peace that protects the Honduran people. So ASJ assisted in developing like a 12-month training program to replace the 3-month program. We advocated for 2 new state laws to improve the police's admin structure. We have a new state-of-the-art forensic lab. If you're ever in Honduras, you can visit it with us for better investigation. And since 2011, Honduras's homicide rate has been reduced in half. And ASJ's investigations led to a 75% reduction in violence. That is huge. So earlier I said we'd learn about stories. That's a story, an example of how ASJ works. And now I want to talk about 3 values from ASJ and from this organization that have really affected my personal life and inspired my faith. And the first is about love. And I knew I'd have to say this because it's Valentine's Day. But today is a weird day in American culture. It's cute, it's fun, but it's kind of weird. It's Valentine's Day. What does it truly mean? Who knows? But it ties in great with this core value ASJ has, which is to love fearlessly. And we can go to the next slide. 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear." And in Honduras and in the United States, there's a lot to be afraid of. For many years, Honduras had the highest homicide rate, like I just said. But right now in the U.S., St. Louis and Baltimore have higher homicide rates per capita than any city in Honduras. And we have a lot of that, like fear and a lot of that danger here. But both in Honduras and the U.S., there's so much to love. I love my friends in Honduras. I love visiting. The country has beautiful beaches and mountains and chocolate and coffee. It's gorgeous. And I love the U.S. I love the diversity. I love this country. And so when we think about loving beyond fear, I'm inspired by the staff in Honduras, this team that did this police investigation. They fight for education systems. They fight for health systems. They show me what it means to do their work out of love, even while they're afraid. And they want better education for the kids they love, better health care for the family and communities they love. But it doesn't mean they're always safe. Just this past summer, actually, one of the staff on our team doing education work had a very scary situation when he was in the press day after day fighting for kids to get back to school since the pandemic has passed in a way in Honduras, and it was absolutely crazy. Loving beyond fear means doing it even when you're shaking a little, saying, I care about that thing and I'm so passionate. There are so many risks involved, or it could freak me out and disrupt my comfort, but I'm going to go anyways and go for it. So I want you to think about what that means. It doesn't just apply to people living in dangerous cities or countries, but there's going to be a time in your life where you say, like, what do I want to do, and how am I going to have to take this fear with me and do it anyways because I love what this calling is and what God has told me. Which leads me to the next value. I want you all to think about like 3 words that describe Christians. It's such a tacky question, but really do. Think about 3 things you'd use to describe Christians in your head right now. And I want to ask, did any of you think of the word brave? In smaller groups, when I give this presentation, people will say compassionate, empathetic, loving, kind. Very rarely do I hear the word brave. Somehow, this idea of bravery has left our Christian lingo. And we really have to understand that our calling as Christians is not to be comfortable. It's not to always be safe. It's not to necessarily be wealthy. Those are fine things, but it's not our biblical call as Christians. And that leads me to the last value I want to talk about, which is all about justice. And we can go to the next slide. I'm learning Spanish right now, and Spanish is an amazing language. How many of you are in Spanish classes? Okay. That's good to know. Spanish is spoken all over the world, and as I learn it, I think it's a super cool language, and it's kind of more fun. It's more cool than English in a lot of ways. And sometimes learning Spanish makes me feel so sad for the English language. For example, we have separated a lot of different words in the English language, like the word justice and the word righteousness. In the English Bible, you'll read about righteousness and you'll read about justice as if they're 2 different things. But I'm so glad for Spanish, there's one word that describes both, justicia, justice. In the Greek translation of justice and righteousness, there's one word, and that Spanish language takes it and keeps it as one word. In the U.S., we've separated those 2 things. In America, we often separate what it means to be reconciled before God as individuals. Personal salvation, making sure I'm good. Justice, that is really complicated and confusing. That's if I have extra time. That is for those people out there who need help. But God's call on our lives is both. We cannot separate them. And we have to walk through this life knowing that my personal salvation isn't where the story ends. My call is to do justice in my everyday life and in my career and my passion. We've lost sight of that call in so many ways, but you probably all know Micah 6:8. What does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. So I want to inspire you to consider that. Where am I separating those 2 things in my life? God has one call on us. And this kind of wraps up those are the 3 values that I want you to walk away thinking about: loving fearlessly, being a brave Christian, and seeking and doing justice in your life. And I hope you reflect on those values and maybe feel inspired about this organization that's doing things in a new way. It's an organization that when you go to college, you can come visit us in Honduras. Come study abroad in Honduras. I highly recommend in college you prioritize studying abroad, even if it's not Honduras. It's extremely transformational. And if you want to learn more, you want to get involved, or you're like, I would be interested in doing something with my life or working for an organization like that, find us on Instagram. We are also on Facebook. I don't know if that's still a thing for you guys, but find us on Instagram and send us a DM, and we will send you resources and opportunities. We'd love to host you in Honduras. It's a very beautiful country to travel in, and we'd love to stay connected. So that's all I have. I'm going to pray and then hand off the mic to someone. But thank you for listening today. Oh, by the way, on the screen right here is my email address, our website. Feel free to check those things out if you want. But I am going to pray to close. Father, these are your values, and these are things that are part of your heart. And we just thank you for this space where we can focus on this calling for a minute in the midst of our busyness and the discerning of what's next. What am I going to do after high school? What am I going to do with my life? Just inspire our faith, inspire our imaginations to consider how big your world is and all of the things your heart cares about, and guide us to learning about your world in more intimate ways in the coming years, days, months. We just pray a blessing over this school, a blessing over ASJ today, and thank you for this space to worship you. Amen.
Well, this is crazy. Who knew Honduras was going to be mentioned so many times this year, and we didn't even plan that. That's awesome. You said something that really kind of spoke to me, and I hope you guys all heard it. Your story doesn't end with your own personal salvation, right? God's story in your life is not finished right there. In many ways, it just begins. So go on this day, and I just hope that you reflect on that. You're excused. God bless you guys, and remember to be kind to those that God put around you. Happy Valentine's Day.